Welcome back, everybody, to Operation GameCube, the channel where I attempt to rebuild the GameCube collection of my childhood for no money out of pocket for reasons I detail right here in Chapter 1. And we're here at Chapter 4. We have the GameCube in hand. That was the conclusion of Chapter 3. But part of this operation, this challenge, really the core part of it, is the games. And I'm here in Chapter 4 without a games list. And I think I need that. I need it for a couple of reasons. One of the kind of unspoken goals of this challenge is to stay married at the end of it. And I don't think my wife would appreciate a collection that just went on, for 50, 100, 150, 200 games or so. And I want something curated. And so today's video is about building that games list. At the end of it, we're actually going to reveal not one, not two, but the first 3 games off the games list. We got that as a part of the purchase of the GameCube. I just didn't show them at the end of Chapter 3, so we'll reveal those here at the end of this. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the games that I am going to be attempting to collect in this challenge. Now, I have a handful of thoughts that I've been bouncing around in my head as to how I want to build this list, and so let me share those with you here now. First and foremost, I do want this to be curated. I don't want, like I mentioned, 50, 100, 150 games. Doesn't mean that I won't add more over time, but for this purpose, I want to make sure it's a curated list. And so I came up with the number of 20 games. So that's not a ton, so I need to make sure every game counts, which really speaks to the next few things I hope this list does. The first thing is it obviously has to pay homage to my childhood. It's not a comprehensive list, one-to-one, of everything I had as a kid, but there are going to be some games on this list that I had as a child, and that I think makes sense. But at the very same moment, I want some games that I didn't have as a kid. How I would describe that is I want to leave room for something new, something surprising, something I didn't know about, something I hadn't tried before. And so those both I want to see present in this list of 20 games. And the last item is it's only 20, so it's got to be well-rounded. I need variety represented. I need first-player style games, one-player games. I need multiplayer games. I want sports. I want adventure. I want different genre and feels to the games. Obviously, 20, not a ton. You're going to have some major titles left off the list, but that's what I'm trying to do here. I want something short and curated. I want something that reminds me of my childhood, a lot of that nostalgia. I want something new, something in there that's surprising, I haven't tried before, and I want to make sure it's well-rounded. So, let's go into these 20 games. I'm going to show my games list right here on the screen. As you can see, there are 5 distinct categories of games. We're going to go through each category, reveal the games that make up that category, and I'll share a little bit about each game as to why I put it on the list. At the end of that 20 reveal, we will then show the 3 games that I'm checking off the list to start on Operation GameCube. Let's go. All right, so the first section of the list is that first player must-haves. Every console has those AAA titles, those first player experiences. GameCube is no different. Let's show the 4 right now. And no surprises here. Zelda Wind Waker, Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, and Metroid Prime. I owned all 4 of these games as a kid, so that nostalgia, check, 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 across the board here. But the things I love about each of these games is they're each representative of the GameCube to me in slightly different ways. First and foremost, for me personally, the Luigi's Mansion game was one of the first games I got on the GameCube, and I just remember just diving so headfirst into that game, loving every quirky little weird moment. Really gave Luigi a personality for the first time, in my opinion. Yes, he was a part of Smash and of Mario Kart, but he really was just Mario's brother. Here you got to get a little bit of who Luigi is. It was so creative and fun. I loved how they took such a small world and packed so much into it. I mean, just a handful of hallways and rooms, but every single time you turned a corner, you didn't know what you were going to find. Campy, fun horror game, beautiful game. Really loved where that game kind of created an arc for Luigi, and he's been following it ever since, frankly, up into the Mario movie. He's kind of the tropes of his personality shown through there. Over to the AAA Mario title, again, the GameCube was the quirky system. There was weird things, little weird quirks throughout in the GameCube, the shape, the design, the little discs, and Mario Sunshine's no different. To me, it was such an interesting pivot to take such a popular, perfectly designed title in Mario 64 and say, yeah, we're going to do that, but we're going to put a weird water jetpack on his back, and we're going to put him in a tropical island, and we're going to create this weird like legal battle that Mario is intertwined in with the people of Delfino Plaza. It was just bizarre. They never returned, obviously, since Mario Sunshine to that water jetpack, but I loved it. It was so much fun. Creative level design. Really want to be able to experience that again with my daughters. And then the Zelda title and the Metroid title, obviously mainstay franchises. But GameCube, they had, I would say, kind of different receptions. I mean, most people looked at the Metroid game as this amazing pivot to first-person style, this really beautiful, haunting world, big, overwhelming, beautiful graphics. It was certainly pushing the system graphically at the time. The storytelling, while it was not a narrative per se, the absence of narrative was really a beautiful story, and just this isolation. I remember being a little overwhelmed by that game as a kid, not really fully able to appreciate kind of the world building that was being done there, and I'm excited to be able to experience that here as an adult. Where Zelda, that was completely different, right? It was the cell shaded style, a departure from the more gritty feel that obviously Majora's Mask certainly brought to the forefront on a game, or on N64, and even Ocarina of Time, I would say, had gritty moments. They went cute, they went cartoony. It was not as well received, if I'm remembering correctly, from the critics. Obviously now that cell shade style animation has just aged beautifully, but it's a little bit more whimsical, a little bit more playful. So I love those two games next to each other as kind of those solo first-person adventures. All four have to be on the list. Super excited to get all four. Let's move on over to the multiplayer must-haves. Now, these are games, of course, to balance that first-player style. I need some great multiplayer, so let's reveal the games. The first one here on the left should come as no surprise to anyone. The best Smash Brothers ever, certainly not the most complete. You've got the one on the Switch and certainly the Wii U to point to from the character roster, but man, is Melee beautiful. It is such a tightly controlled game. There's a reason why I think a lot of people still use it as the premier tournament style Super Smash. It just took what the N64 one did well and just turned it up to 11. I remember playing it as a kid, trying to get every character, all the little trophies that you could get at the end of different things to build your kind of trophy set. I was getting very ensconced in that and trying to collect all of that. I just think it's super fun. It's a beautiful game. It ages super, super well. It's the ultimate party fighting game, which then pairs really nicely with Soul Calibur 2, which is the ultimate one-on-one fighting game. In my opinion, the Soul Calibur series is as good, if not better, than Tekken and Street Fighter. I thought Soul Calibur 1, I played that to death on the Dreamcast, and then Soul Calibur 2, when it came out, just improved again on everything that the original did. I loved the inclusion of Link to add that little Nintendo flair. I just think it's a great kind of 1v1 life bar style fighting game. You can have your favorites, whether that's Mortal Kombat or Tekken or Street Fighter. I think Soul Calibur 2 is right up there with the rest of them, and I'm excited to eventually add that to the collection. And to round out the multiplayer must-haves, this is the first wildcard slot. You'll see this throughout this list. I mentioned wanting to leave room for the unexpected or the unknown. Now, this is a little bit of a telegraphed unknown, but it's one of four, right? So Mario Party 4, 5, 6, and 7 all came out on the GameCube. I don't care. I don't know which one I'm going to walk away with. I want to walk away with at least one. I can't imagine owning a Nintendo system without owning a Mario Party game. So let's get a Mario Party game to round out that multiplayer must-have section. We're going to move down here to the atmospheric section. Now, this is a weird heading. Certainly some of the games in here are one-player styles, and certainly things from other categories you could describe as atmospheric in nature. The reason I put these three titles here is I think that they do a really creative job in world building an environment that you want to get lost in. And so let's show the three games that make up this section. You can't get much more different than Animal Crossing and Resident Evil 4 and Pikmin there to round that section out. But let's talk about each one and why I put them in here. So I've played two of the three. I haven't played Resident Evil 4. Obviously, horror, atmosphere, building kind of that scary universe. you can't read a top 10, top 20 GameCube games list and not see Resident Evil 4 make that list. I wasn't a horror games kid. I don't mind a horror movie. I watch, horror movies here and there during the October season, but I wanted, again, to try something new, to round that games list out with a genre that maybe wasn't represented elsewhere. Yes, Metroid Prime has that survival, isolation, horror feel, but not to the degree that the Resident Evil games obviously take it. So I want to try it out. So I put it on the list. And I think that's type of that atmospheric world building that'd be really, really nice to experience, as an adult. Maybe not with the girls. I probably wouldn't play that with them. Pikmin, though, I might. And Pikmin was actually the first game that I got as a child. I don't think I was old enough to really appreciate the world building that is done in Pikmin. It is a beautiful dichotomy of this cute, whimsical aesthetic with these little Pikmin creatures. I mean, even the bad guys are cartoony in nature and they're drawing, and obviously Captain Olimar and his ship, it's fun and it's cute and it's, miniaturized. I mean, there's just a whimsy to it. But man, is it a lonely game. I mean, you are alone on this planet. Not only do you have to rebuild your ship, essentially, in isolation, no other living creatures. I mean, you're Pikmin, but you understand what I mean. No communication here. No second mate or anything of that nature. Not like in Pikmin 2 or the future iterations of the series. But the day to night time cycle thing, I think that is such a fun mechanic to create this overbearing kind of cloud above you. I mean, that's where Majora's Mask, I think, shined. Obviously, it was a time mechanic that let the game get released faster with Majora's Mask, but man, it just built this eerie, intense feeling the more and more your day progressed. And I think when you pair that in Pikmin with the cute and whimsical, with that kind of isolated, alone, calendar ticking away, daylight ticking away, pressure, it's a really creative design, and I think that creates a really interesting atmosphere. And then Animal Crossing. I'll tell you, I was an Animal Crossing kid. There was a stretch of time there where I was so much of an Animal Crossing kid that I may have bought the strategy guide to know what months of the year certain fishes were more likely to be caught at your ocean's dock. Yeah, it world builds. It builds an atmosphere. You can get sucked in. I think this is a game my kids will love over time. I'm a little apprehensive to own it again. I don't really have the time to play every day to make sure that the villagers don't get mad at me, which was definitely a part of 7th grade Max's childhood. But I need to own that game again. I do miss it. I think it's so creative. I mean, you really can create a world in Animal Crossing where the mundane is fun, where you are gathering fruit and shells and checking out the corner store, Tom Nook's store, every day, and just it's Sims but better to me. I've played The Sims, I played SimCity, I've played all those games. World building is really fun when you have a little world to build, right? Roller Coaster Tycoon is that style of game, and I think those were great games when I was growing up that I enjoyed crafting that little world, and Animal Crossing to me is the definitive way to do that on the GameCube, and I can't wait to own that game again. All right, let's bounce over to sports and racing. I will tell you, this is a tough category. The one thing that old school systems tend to not age very well with is sports games. It's just hard to find a good sports title that ages well. It just is. Madden 05 is not on this list, I'll tell you that. But let's reveal the 4 that are. And yeah, I'm cheating a little bit here with a few of them. You might argue they belong somewhere else, but I think that I can make an argument for all 4. Let's start with the one that is safely a sports or a racing game, which is SSX Tricky. Another childhood nostalgia kick for me. I loved this game. I've heard really good things about SSX 3. Never played it, not opposed to it, but if I'm going to build this list out and I'm going to have games from my childhood, SSX Tricky is there. It's just so buttery smooth for not being a cartoony game, right? Mario games are obviously known for that smooth mechanic of movement. They do such a beautiful job. I thought SSX Tricky had that same feel without being cartoony, which is rare in that era. For those more realistic, I mean, yes, obviously some of the moves that they do are, Tony Hawk Pro Skater-esque abilities, but they were human, right? Everyone in the designs of that game were not cartoony, and it was so smooth. I loved playing that game. Can't wait to get that again. I have 2 racing games, if you will. Mario Kart Double Dash is a racing game. It counts. Obviously, you have to have Mario Kart. And Mario Kart Double Dash, again, just threads that weird needle that the GameCube games thread. It's Mario Kart, but it's a mechanic like Mario Sunshine's Flood backpack that was brought in once and never seen again on a franchise arc that spans 30 years. I mean, how many Mario Karts have we had? Someone can tell me. 8, 9, I don't know what it is. And the 2-person kart, seen once, never seen again. I love how chaotic it is. I love how creative it is. It's just that Mario Kart on the GameCube quirk, like Mario 64, Mario Sunshine on the GameCube quirk. I love that is there, so I need to get that game. Simpsons Road Rage. Racing game, taxi game, kind of a racing game. It's going to count for the list. Man, did I love that game growing up. I think it was just fascinating how Simpsons Road Rage and Simpsons Hit and Run came out in like a year and a half span, are 2 just iconic Simpsons games. And other than the arcade, the 4-player arcade with Marge and Bart and Lisa and Homer, side-scrolling adventure, I can't name a 4th Simpson game that anyone cares about. Maybe it's out there. I've never played it, if it exists. But I played Simpsons Hit and Run, and of course I played Road Rage. I put Road Rage on the list because Simpsons Hit and Run is like Road Rage Light to me. It's got the great driving that Road Rage has, but it added too much extra fetch questy stuff into the mix. Didn't make it any better. Road Rage is a better Crazy Taxi. I will stand behind that statement for anyone who wants to argue with me. But I love that game. I need that game again. I played the absolute crap out of it as a kid, and I can't wait to get it again. And here's another wild card, if you will. Obviously, the wild card section will be where we have the true wild cards. But like I want a Mario Party game, I want a Mario sports game. Now, that's a much more open category, because Mario Party is Mario Party. But with the Mario sports game, to me, I think there's 4 options on the GameCube. There is Mario Tennis, there's Mario Golf, there's Mario Baseball, and there's Mario Super Strikers, which is Mario Soccer. I didn't own any of those as a kid. So that will be both a new and a wild card style option for me. That's probably one where I'd love to own more than one of them. I've played Mario Tennis and Mario Golf on other systems, but I've never owned the GameCube ones. Never played Mario Super Striker in my life. Don't think I've ever played Mario Baseball in my life. So very open to which one that is and which one ends up rounding out the sports and racing category, but I would like to have a Mario sports game. And now we're on to the wild card section. The wild cards are truly that. They are open categories. I mentioned that I wanted part of this list to be unknown. Now, it doesn't mean it has to be a game I've never owned before. It could be a game that I've owned before or played before that fits one of these categories. But I'm going to reveal the 6 categories or the 6 spots here in the wild card space and talk about each one. So first up you see here is a cult classic. Now, how do I define a cult classic? I think a few things have to be true to be a cult classic. I think it needs to be representative of a series that never really took off. So Luigi's Mansion to me isn't a cult classic because it ended up having multiple iterations on future systems. It launched a series, and that to me is not a cult classic. A cult classic has to be, if not a game in isolation that doesn't have an arc in a larger series, it needs to be either that or very infrequent part of a series. Rating, open to it being a decently rated game, but it's probably not a game that should be on anyone's top 5 games of all time, maybe even top 10. It's got to have pockets of popularity. So that's my cult classic definition. I think a lot of people have different ways they can define that term. That's how I'm defining it for purposes of this. The next one is a rare find. Now, there are rare GameCube games. There's the Pokemon boxes and the Cubivores and the Gotcha Forces of the world and the Go-Go Hypergrinds of the world. Maybe. I don't know if I really want to spend $600, $700, $800 on a single game, especially a game in a category I've never played before, but we'll see. Ultimately, a rare find, it needs to be a game that feels rare. It needs to either be, north of $100 or something that's just hard to find. You guys know what rare means. We'll see what that ends up being. Next, though, is a kid's game. I am doing this list for my children as much as I'm doing it for me. So that could be... It could be a lot of things, right? It could be a Mickey game. It could be a Scooby-Doo game. It could be, you name it, right? It could be a game that is just very much for children. Mario's for children, Pikmin's for children, but I want it to be a kid's game. It could be a Barbie game. I don't know what it's going to be. I hope it's not terrible, but I want to make sure there's a game on this list that is intentionally a kid's game. Which it could end up being very similar to the next category, which is a movie game. I swear, back in the early mid-thousands, every movie was getting a video game. If you were an action game, or you were an action movie, or a Disney-style animated movie, you were getting a video game. I mean, gosh, every Harry Potter game was out. Every Disney movie was out. I mean, Shark Tale is a game on the GameCube. That movie wasn't good. How did that get a game? Everything had a game. So, I want a movie game. It could be a Lord of the Rings game. It could have been the Matrix game. I mean, there's so many movie games from the GameCube era. I need to own one. So that's going to be one of them. The next one is called a package deal. What do I mean by that? I mean, a game that I didn't intentionally buy. Part of this GameCube challenge, Operation GameCube, is finding good deals on different spots, be that eBay, Amazon, Facebook Marketplace, in person. And so a package deal means a game that comes along for the ride. It's a true wild card, very much an open spot. I'd like it to be something I like, not a piece of shovelware. We'll see. So a package deal. And then the last category is a low rating. I want a game that isn't critically acclaimed. Now, again, I don't want it to be garbage. I'd like it to be something that some people think has some merit, or it has a redeeming quality or two. But in the kind of inverse, if you will, of a cult classic, which is probably highly regarded, just didn't launch a series, I want a low rating to maybe be something that is less highly regarded. And it can be a part of a series. It can be any category. But it's just not something that the critics in the mid-early thousands fell in love with. So that's it. There are my 20 games. As you can see, let me count it. 12 games are defined by name. 2 games are defined by thematic category, narrowing it to a subset of games. And 6 are truly wide open. Dozens of games could fit that bill. So I need to, over the course of the next handful of videos, start building this games list out, buying them, trading for them, finding them on the side of the road, no money out of pocket as I build the GameCube collection of my childhood. But as I said, we are going to reveal the first few games off our games list. Let's gray this list out, representing that none of these games are currently owned, and let's cut to the very first game that we're adding to Operation GameCube's games list. And that first game on the list is going to be our first kind of wild card, a Mario Party game. Mario Party 5 is the Mario Party game that we are now adding to the collection. As you can see, it is complete in box with manual. A little bit of a cosmetic flaw up here. Unfortunately, that's not on the plastic. That's on the actual piece of paper in here, so there's no swapping cases to replace that. So it is what it is. Minor cosmetic flaw, but complete in box, as mentioned, and the disc is super clean, which is great to see for a game of this age. To be honest, I was open to any of the Mario Party games, but if I had to have picked, I probably would have picked 5. 5's better than 4, right? It's one more, but it's got maybe more variety or more characters, better graphics, etc. But 6 and 7, they started to have that microphone gimmick. Didn't really want to deal with that, to be completely honest. Didn't want to have to buy a microphone and feel like if I didn't, I had an incomplete experience. So really happy to get Mario Party 5 added to Operation GameCube as the first game checked off our list. Let's go to game number 2. And the second game checked off our list on Operation GameCube is Pikmin. Now, this is not original in box, although I do love this box. It's, for all of my 90s kids out there, It is a Hollywood video replacement case. I mean, I at least appreciate it came in a case, but obviously by no means a final resting place for this game. The disc, though, very nice, very clean, very consistently clean games from this reseller, which I've been happy to see. And so, hey, I'm going to have to add to my list of shopping items at least an original case, if not hopefully case and manual for Pikmin. But super excited to get this game this early in Operation GameCube. I just love this game. It's one of my favorite. It was obviously the first GameCube game I had as a kid, as I've said earlier in this video. Just really pumped to be able to add this to the collection. Technically not a full check mark, but for now we're going to count it as game number 2 added to Operation GameCube's game list. And the third and final game we're checking off the games list today is going to be one of those wild cards. We are going to check off a rare find much earlier in this than I thought we were going to, but we're going to be checking it off with Paper Mario. Now, there are probably other rarer games that could fill this spot, but I think Paper Mario counts as one of those rare grail games. I mean, complete in-box copies, of which this not only is complete in box, but it's minty fresh. I mean, if you look at this, beautiful art, very little scuffing, and when you open this guy up, you can see complete manual, the disc. It's got a little schmutz on the front that I'll need to clean off, but I think I can. The back of the disc is just beautiful. I mean, this copy, I wouldn't be surprised if this copy was $150 sold separately. And as I mentioned, part of why this collection cost what it cost was because I believe a game like this was in there. So I'm just super excited to have it. To be completely honest, the rare find category, whether it was going to be something like Gotcha Force or Cubivore, those are games I don't really have any attachment to or any history with. Pokemon Box is probably the most expensive game on the GameCube. It's not even really a game. I didn't really want to have to buy that. This is probably the rarest, most expensive, rare find game in that category that I'm actually really excited to buy and play. So I'm really happy that this is filling that rare find spot for me. I've played Paper Mario games before, played the N64 one, played the Wii one, never played the GameCube one. So that's a new one for me, and it checks the rare find spot on the list, which let's do that right now. And that takes us to a close on Chapter 4. Thanks for sticking around if you did. That was a lot, but we now have a games list. We have the GameCube, as we saw in Chapter 3. We've done 3 of our 20 games, 17 more to go. I do have only $30 currently sitting here in the GameCube budget. So future chapters, they're all about making money. If you're having fun, like, subscribe, follow along, and I'll be back, hopefully, with more money and more GameCube games on Operation GameCube.